shadows in the hive. The Hive Queen was dead. Her fall had been broadcast across the globe, alien wings torn, her titanic body burning as she crashed into the Atlantic. Humanity had cheered, their guardian hovering over the smoldering waves, battered but victorious. The war was over, or so they believed. Across the world, celebrations erupted. Children ran into the streets waving flags, families lit lanterns into the night sky, and nations that once quarreled found reason to embrace. Yet, in the silent carcass of the Hive Queen's massive vessel drifting above Earth, something stirred. The hive-ship had once pulsed like a living thing, its walls breathing, its arteries carrying the strange ichor that fueled its soldiers. Now it floated lifeless in orbit, a derelict tomb. Earth's governments debated what to do with it, tear it apart, study its weapons, or simply nuke it out of the sky. None of their voices reached the shadow lurking deep inside. In the ship's lowest chambers, beyond ruptured bulkheads and collapsed tunnels, a chamber still lived. It pulsed faintly, a heartbeat too slow to notice, too deep to register on human scanners. Here, where the Queen's throne had once been, the air shimmered with dark energy. A cocoon split open with a sound like cracking bone. From within, something clawed its way out. It was larger than any drone, taller than any general. Its wings spread wide, blacker than the void itself, dripping with venomous ichor that sizzled when it touched the ground. Its eyes burned crimson, not with hunger but with fury. Where the Hive Queen had ruled with instinct and appetite, this being radiated calculation, intelligence, and dominion. The Hive King had awoken. He stood before the hollow throne and placed his claws upon its cracked surface. His voice was not a roar, but a whisper that crawled across the galaxy. She is gone. I remain. I am the will of the Hive reborn. Across the carcass of the vessel, dormant pods flickered back to life. Soldiers twitched, rose, and bowed. Generals who had fallen in silence breathed again. Their eyes turned not toward the absent queen, but toward their new sovereign. The hive had always been one mind. Now it was sharper, darker, and more dangerous than ever. Far below, Earth remained unaware. Superman floated high above the atmosphere, watching the hive-ship with uneasy eyes. He had not slept in weeks, his wounds from the final battle with the Queen had yet to heal. His cells ached with fatigue, his strength flickered like a candle in the wind. Yet he could not look away. Something about the vessel bothered him. Something he couldn't name. Still keeping watch, a voice asked in his earpiece. It was Dr. Chen, one of the lead scientists monitoring alien signals from the ground. Superman's gaze never shifted. It's too quiet. The Queen is dead, but the hive doesn't feel empty. It feels waiting. Chen hesitated. Our scans show nothing. Energy levels are declining. The ship is dying, just like its master. Superman didn't answer immediately. His senses reached out, listening beyond sound, beyond light. And there it was, a faint vibration in the void. Not the chaotic pulse of the Queen's hunger, but a deeper rhythm, slower, heavier. It resonated in his bones. Thrum. 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 He clenched his fists. No, he whispered. It's not over. On the ground, humanity moved forward with fragile optimism. Metropolis rebuilt its skyline. Paris raised monuments to the fallen. In Cairo, survivors painted murals of the victory, depicting Superman with wings of light standing over the broken swarm. Children played without fear again. Farmers tilled fields that had once been craters. Soldiers returned home, many carrying scars, but alive. For the first time in years, Earth felt united, not by fear, but by triumph. Yet not everyone believed the war was finished. Veterans muttered of nightmares, of hearing the hive's whispers in their dreams. Seismologists recorded faint, unexplained tremors beneath the soil. Animals in remote regions grew restless, howling at the night sky as though warning of something unseen. Governments argued in private meetings. Should the hive-ship be steadied or destroyed? Some feared it still contained horrors that could awaken. Others hungered for its technology, dreaming of weapons that could ensure Earth never bowed to any invader again. And in those debates, the Hive King's shadow grew. Within his chamber, the king stretched his wings and hissed. The air rippled with his voice, carried not through sound, but through the hive's psychic link. Children of the queen, you are mine now. No longer will we be beasts of hunger. No longer will we feed without thought. We will conquer. We will rule. We will claim this world not as prey, but as throne. 1,000 eyes glowed in the dark, answering him. The swarm bent knee. Far away, Superman felt the tremor intensify. His vision blurred, his breath grew shallow. He pressed a hand against his chest, his heart hammering with the same rhythm. Thrum. 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 Clark? Chin's voice cracked over the comms. You're not responding. Are you all right? He shook his head, though she couldn't see it. His eyes fixed on the hive-ship, burning with dread. No, he whispered. The queen was never the end. Something else is rising. He descended toward Earth, his cape torn, his body weary, but his resolve unbroken. Humanity needed to be warned. Because the shadows in the hive were no longer silent. They were preparing to march. And the Hive King had set his eyes on Earth. The broken guardian. The night sky over Earth lit with fire again. At first, it was only a few sparks, dormant hive pods igniting in the upper atmosphere, streaking downward like falling stars. People in New York pointed upward, cheering, believing them harmless debris from the dead hive-ship. Children laughed and made wishes. But when the first pod slammed into Times Square and split open, releasing insectoid soldiers clad in obsidian armor, the laughter ended. All across the planet, more pods followed. From Moscow to Rio, from Johannesburg to Sydney, the swarm returned, not in blind frenzy, but in coordinated precision. These were not the wild drones of the queen. They moved like armies, their wings beating in unison, their strikes aimed at power plants, communication hubs, military bases. The Hive Kings will guide them. Superman was already in the skies when the first alarm sounded. His ears, tuned to the cries of the world, caught 100,000 voices calling for help at once. He streaked toward the first sight, his silver armor glinting against the moonlight. He crashed into a swarm of 50 soldiers above Washington, scattering them like leaves in a storm. His fists glowed as he struck, wings snapping, chitin shattering. Below, the Capitol trembled, its defenses strained. But something was wrong. Each blow left his arms trembling. Each surge of energy drained him faster than before. His cells, once inexhaustible, burned sluggishly. The wounds from his battle with the Queen still gnawed at him. For every drone he destroyed, 10 more replaced it, moving with cold efficiency. Clark, status. Dr. Chen's voice rang in his ear. Holding, barely, he gasped, ramming his shoulder into a hulking general and sending it crashing into the Potomac. They're stronger than before. Smarter. It's not just instinct, it's strategy. Chen's reply was drowned in static. The hive was jamming communications. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower burned. In New Delhi, swarms overran rail lines, cutting off entire districts. In Sao Paulo, survivors scrambled onto rooftops, signaling with torches as hive flyers patrolled the skies. Superman raced from one battlefield to another, but each time he arrived too late to save everyone. He caught crumbling bridges, diverted collapsing towers, shielded children from claws, but the cost grew heavier. His chest heaved. His cape was torn, blackened by acid. His hands bled. Above the chaos, a voice slithered into his mind. Deep, commanding, relentless. Kryptonian. Protector. Weapon. You bleed. You falter. You will kneel. Superman froze midair, his senses reeling. He clutched his head, the psychic whisper drilling through his skull like a burning brand. The Hive King. This was no mindless swarm. This was war. The Hive's generals emerged next. In Tokyo, one stood as tall as skyscrapers, its mandibles dripping molten acid that carved rivers through the streets. In Berlin, another spread wings the size of aircraft, unleashing sonic blasts that shattered concrete like glass. And in Cairo, Superman confronted a third, a towering brute clad in blackened plates, its claws radiating with the Hive King's will. The battle was savage. Superman's punches cracked the creature's armor, but its strikes hammered him to his knees. Acid seared his shoulder, venom sank into his veins, slowing his movements. He staggered, eyes dimming. The general's claws lifted him high above the shattered city, ready to snap his spine. But from below, soldiers opened fire. Human soldiers, tired, under-equipped, hopelessly outmatched, yet unflinching. Their bullets ricocheted, their rockets dented armor, but their courage did what weapons could not. It broke the general's focus. Superman surged with the last of his strength, blasting free, driving the creature into the sand with a blow that cracked the earth. He stood panting, his knees trembling. The general twitched, then fell still. The soldiers cheered. But Superman did not. His chest burned, his vision blurred. He felt weaker than ever before. Back in the hive-ship, the Hive King's wings spread wide. Through the eyes of his soldiers, he watched the battle unfold. He smiled. Even gods bleed, he whispered. Even guardians falter. Humanity will see their champion fall, and when he breaks, they will kneel. They always kneel. The hive roared in answer, their psychic chorus shaking the void. Superman limped away from the battlefield, his ears ringing with the cries of millions more in danger. His communicator crackled back to life for a moment. "Clark, we're detecting swarms over every continent." "You can't be everywhere at once," Dr. Chen urged. "We need a coordinated defense. We need you to lead, not just fight." He wanted to answer, but his breath caught in his throat. His body refused to obey him. For the first time in years, Superman faltered not from doubt, but from weakness. He landed on the roof of a ruined hospital, clutching his side. Around him, survivors huddled, their eyes wide with terror. A little girl tugged at his scorched cape, whispering, "Don't leave us. Please." He forced a smile, though it cost him. "I'm not leaving," he said softly. "Not ever." But deep inside, a seed of fear took root. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure he could keep that promise. Above, the Hive King's shadow grew longer. His armies spread across the earth, their strikes cutting deeper, more precise. And in every clash, in every wound, Superman felt the truth pressing upon him. He was breaking. And the world knew it. Humanity's fire. The world had seen many wars, but none like this. The Hive King's soldiers descended in waves, coordinated with a ruthless precision Earth had never faced. Hive generals toppled monuments, their claws tearing through steel like paper. Cities that had just begun to heal after the Queen's fall once again crumbled under alien shadows. And yet, amid the chaos, humanity did not break. In London, where the Thames had become a battlefield of acid and flame, engineers and soldiers gathered what they had. From the wreckage of hive drones and shattered aircraft, they built railguns, cannons large enough to pierce even the swarm's armored generals. Each strike lit the night sky, and for every creature felled, cheers rose from the defenders. In Brazil, deep within the Amazon's shadows, guerrilla fighters trapped hive soldiers in pits lined with fire, using stolen hive ichor as fuel. The forest burned with green flame, and the swarm screeched as the jungle itself turned against them. In Japan, families who had once fled earthquakes and tsunamis now carried supplies to the front lines. Children passed water to soldiers. Elderly farmers drove their tractors into battle, hauling makeshift barricades to block the swarm's advance. Everyone fought. No one hid. Humanity's fire spread. Superman, weary and broken, saw it all. From the skies, he hovered above a battlefield in Berlin, his cape tattered, his breath ragged. Below, thousands of civilians fought with weapons too small to matter, Molotov cocktails, rifles, even kitchen knives. Against the swarm, it should have been hopeless. But they fought anyway. And to his astonishment, they held. A group of engineers rigged explosives to collapse a bridge just as a tide of Hive soldiers charged across it. The explosion sent them plunging into the river, where currents swept them away. In the ruins of a cathedral, priests and imams stood shoulder to shoulder, distributing rations and guarding the wounded, their prayers echoing louder than the swarm's shrieks. For the first time since the Hive King's rise, Superman felt something stir within him, not strength, not power, but something deeper. Hope. In Cairo, he joined a platoon of human soldiers pushing back a wave of Hive drones. His punches were slower now, his vision blurred, but he was no longer alone. Soldiers fired rockets past him, their explosions driving back creatures that would have overwhelmed even him. A tank rolled through the ruins, crushing alien carapaces beneath its treads. One young soldier, her uniform scorched and torn, shouted as she reloaded, "We've got you, Guardian. You're not fighting alone anymore." The word struck him harder than any blow the Hive King could deliver. He realized then what the Hive King had failed to understand: humanity did not kneel because of him. Humanity stood because it had always stood. With or without him, the fire burned. Meanwhile, in secret bunkers and labs, humanity's brightest minds worked feverishly. In Geneva, scientists reverse-engineered fragments of hive plating, creating bullets laced with acid-resistant coatings. In Los Angeles, programmers hacked into hive communication frequencies, jamming signals just long enough to buy soldiers a few precious minutes. In Moscow, physicists experimented with particle beams, desperate to match the hive's devastating energy blasts. Everywhere, humanity adapted. Every failure taught them something new. Every fallen city gave rise to new strategies. The Hive King had underestimated them. Yet the cost was heavy. Superman stood among the wreckage of Paris, watching medics carry away the wounded. His body ached, his knees buckled beneath him. Acid burns scarred his chest. The voices of the dying rang in his ears. He knelt in the rubble, his head bowed. For a moment, despair clawed at him. He was weaker than ever. The Hive King's whispers pressed into his mind, mocking him. "See how they burn for you. How they die for you. You cannot save them all. You will fall, and their fire will smother to ash." But then he heard another voice. Not in his head, but in the rubble around him. A mother, cradling her child, whispering, "It's okay. He's still here. If he's still fighting, then so are we." Superman's fists clenched. He rose, trembling but unyielding. "I am not their shield alone," he said, his voice carrying through the ruined streets. "I am their reflection." And with those words, he launched back into the skies, not as a savior above humanity, but as a warrior among them. Around the world, humans rose higher. In Mexico City, civilians armed with homemade drones dropped explosives on Hive soldiers, turning the swarm's own aerial dominance against them. In Nigeria, fishermen used their boats to cut off Hive reinforcements along rivers, luring them into traps. In Australia, miners rigged underground tunnels with charges, collapsing whole swarms into the earth. Every act, no matter how small, was a spark. And together, the sparks became a firestorm. From his throne within the hive-ship, the Hive King hissed, watching through the eyes of his soldiers. He had expected fear. He had expected surrender. But instead, he saw defiance, millions of humans standing against him, united not by a single leader, but by their own unbreakable will. His wings shuddered, his claws dug into the throne. For the first time, he felt something unfamiliar. Not defeat, not yet. But resistance. "Let them burn," he growled. "Fire is fuel. Their defiance will only make their fall sweeter." Yet even as he spoke, the swarm faltered. The fire spread. Humanity did not bend. Superman soared higher, his body screaming with pain, his strength a shadow of what it once was. But as he looked down upon the earth, he saw it blazing, not in destruction, but in courage. He whispered to himself, almost in awe, "They don't need me to carry them. They need me to stand with them." And with that, the broken guardian found his strength again, not infinite, not unshakable, but enough. Enough to face what was coming. Because the Hive King had not yet descended. And when he did, Earth would face its darkest battle. The darkest battle, 1,000 words. The Hive King descended at last, his form towering, wings like black suns blotting the heavens. His claws dripped with venom that corroded even the air. His voice was a thunder of hate. This world is mine. Superman, battered but unbroken, soared to meet him. The clash tore the skies apart. Their blows cracked mountains, their cries shook oceans. For every strike Superman landed, the King answered with 10. For every wound Superman endured, humanity pushed forward, refusing to yield. The King drove Superman into the earth, leaving craters miles wide. The world gasped, certain it was the end. But Superman rose once more, dragging broken breath into his lungs. And behind him, billions stood, not with capes, not with powers, but with defiance. You face more than me, he said, voice raw but resolute. You face Earth. With the last of his strength, Superman channeled the fire of his cells into a final strike, a blazing storm of light that pierced the Hive King's chest. Humanity's weapons joined in, missiles and cannons tearing the monster apart. The Hive King shrieked, his wings collapsing, his body burning. With a final curse, he fell, his ashes scattering across the skies. Silence followed. Then cheers. Then hope. The hive was broken. Earth endured. Superman, kneeling amidst the ruins, lifted his gaze. This was my darkest battle, he said softly. But it proved the truth, humanity does not survive because of me. I survive because of them. And so, in the galaxy's memory, the Hive King's rise was remembered not for his fury, but for his fall, to a world that refused to kneel.